So we're going to be talking today about why your financial strategies are not working for you. And of course, as always, if you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that, feel free to drop it below and I'll make sure to answer those as well. Okay, so many times we try to, make a plan for what we're going to do about our finances. And for whatever reason, we struggle to implement that. So just to rewind a little bit, what's the point of making a financial plan? Well, the point of making a plan is because you have goals, you have dreams, you have things that you want to do, things that you want to accomplish. That might mean that you want to make $10,000 a month. That might mean that you want to make $5,000 a month. That might mean that you want to take more time off, that you want to travel more often, that you want to spend more time with your kids. Whatever that means for you and your journey, we all have these dreams and these financial goals and resources that we need to get there. No matter what your dream is, I'm pretty sure that it's going to require some financial resources in some form or another. So what do? You make a plan. Well, if you're smart and savvy, then you are getting online, you are doing the research, you're looking for financial education, you're learning about things like budgeting, you're learning about things like how to save more money. You might even be thinking about, okay, well, how do I invest my money? And when you're going through this journey, you start to implement some of this. You start to kind of play around and say, what's working, what's not working. I'm going to try this on. I'm going to try this way of budgeting. There's so many different ways to budget. You could do the cash budgeting, where you're paying for all your bills and everything in cash so that you're really conscious and aware of what you're spending rather than just kind of getting in the habit of swiping things. It may be a zero-based budget where every single dollar that you get paid is being allocated somewhere. And then everything else that's quote unquote left over is going to savings, it's going to investing, etc. And for whatever reason, it just seems like things keep getting in our way, whether that's things getting in your way from budgeting or things getting in your way from being able to set money aside to save. Maybe it's things that are getting in the way of you being able to invest in the things that you want to invest in. So this is what I really want to spend the majority of our time talking about. So what's getting in the way? So in my upcoming book, Heal Money Trauma and Create Sustainable Wealth, I dive into this in immense detail. But I'm going to give you guys like a bit of a synopsis of that while we go over this. Just as kind of like an overview for the book, the first section really dives into the mindset that's necessary. It goes into, once we cover the mindset and provide some tools, to start to shift that mindset, then we start to dive into some of the deeper issues that are really affecting our relationship with money, such as emotional and spiritual elements. So some of that stuff includes scarcity being more related to mindset. But where scarcity comes from could be something a lot deeper. It could come from childhood trauma. It could come from family karma. It could come from your parents' relationship with money and how they communicated that to you in the household. There's so many underlying factors that really go into our relationship with money. And until we start to dive really deep and understand our money story and understand our own money trauma, it's very, very difficult to really get on top of our relationship with money. We think that it's all about strategy. We think that it's about how do I budget? How do I save? Where do I put my money? What's going to make me the most money? But in reality, if you haven't healed these underlying issues that you have in your relationship with money, these kind of money traumas, if you will, then you're not going to be able to apply these strategies. You're going to continue to avoid looking at your bank statements. You're going to continue to be in self-sabotage mode. And you're going to continue to engage in behaviors that are guided, often not even consciously, sometimes by our subconscious and by our past experiences and past conditioning and kind of all this programming that we've received from our parents and from society and from the people around us that then, start to dictate the way that we interact with money and our relationship with money. But if we don't start to do the deep work, if we don't really dive in to our relationship with money and start to really understand what our money story is and where it came from, then it's really, really, really hard to apply these strategies. So I'll dive a little bit deeper too into like what a money story is, just so we're all on the same page. So why your financial strategies aren't working is really predominantly because you haven't started to grapple with these underlying issues that are really shaping your money story and your relationship with money. Also, just as a quick precursor, it's not necessarily your fault. A lot of your money story actually has nothing to do with you. It has to do with your parents' relationship with money. It has to do with your grandparents' relationship with money. It has to do with the experiences that you've had with your significant other around money. There's so many factors that really go into like our conditioning around what our money story is. So again, no blame. This is not a blame game. It's just a matter of it's now our responsibility to do an inventory and really start to understand where the stuff is coming from so that we can overcome whatever hurdles that we're facing so that we can really align with and live the life that we desire. I'm going to give you guys some examples of some good questions and things to think about when you're trying to understand your money story. So for one, what was your parents' relationship with money like? Were they big spenders? Maybe, your mom was a big spender and she would rack up lots of credit card debt and then your parents would fight about it. That could be something that would then not only start to give you some disillusionment around your spending habits, but it would also perhaps make you feel like money is a source of conflict. So you can't talk about money with your significant other or your spouse or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it might be, because you think it's going to be a fight. So when you have those kind of beliefs and ideals, then it starts to guide and shift the way that you interact with money, the way that you discuss money or don't discuss money. So for example, if you see that as an area of conflict, it's not likely going to be something that you're going to be comfortable talking about. And the less that you talk about your financial situation with your significant other, the more problems are going to arise, because you guys are both going to be operating in the dark. You're going to have stuff coming out of nowhere that's going to seem like a shock factor, whether that's the amount of debt you have or student loans or your financial obligations or how much money you make, whatever that might mean. I definitely recommend starting to do this kind of inventory and getting an understanding of your relationship with money. As you start to understand your money story, then you can start to rewrite the things that are no longer serving you. But if you don't know where you're at right now, and if you don't know your starting point, then it's hard to know where to go from there. It's hard to know what limiting beliefs that you need to explore. It's hard to know what work that you need to start doing if you don't actually have an inventory of where you're at right now. So that's definitely the first step. I know we talked a little bit about scarcity and certain other elements that come up in terms of this. Another thing that's really crucial in the beginning stages is to start to do an inventory of your value system. So your value system is going to dictate how you spend your money. And what I mean by that is, for you to truly be in alignment, you have to have a full understanding of what your values are to know that you're aligning your spending habits with that. So for example, if you're someone who is really big on human rights, that matters a lot to you, and you're constantly, fighting for equal rights for whether that's, through the current policy with immigration, or whether that's human rights abroad, or whether that's gender equality. There's so many different, kind of facets of that. If that's something that's high on your value list, then you're going to want to align your spending habits with that. So for example, that might mean ensuring that you set aside a little bit of money so that you can donate to a non-for-profit that's working towards these causes. But again, if you don't have clarity around what your value system is, it's very difficult to know that you're aligning your relationship with money and your spending habits with that. Same thing for investing, saving, any of that stuff. So before you're actually at a point where you're ready to start to create an investment strategy, you have to know what you stand for and what's aligned with you so that you can be making investments that are aligned with that as well. So in my upcoming book, Heal Money, Trauma, and Create Sustainable Wealth, so in the first section of the book, we really kind of lay the groundwork of the deeper issues that are causing your relationship with money. And furthermore, kind of bringing up this money trauma that I've been discussing to really start to do some of that deep healing work. Once we've really gone deep, then in the next section of the book, it actually includes transformational money stories from other women and from other people that have been in similar circumstances that have overcome difficult situations or rewrote their own money story. And this is really powerful because really the main premise of the book is we're going to lay the groundwork for what you need to do. Then we're going to help you identify what's holding you back, where you're blocked, where you're feeling stuck. Then we're going to provide you with different stories, transformational stories from other women where they've been able to overcome their money issues. And then in the last part of the book, then we're going to actually create a roadmap. We're going to go through the strategy and create a roadmap for your money success story so that you can go from where you're at now to where you want to be. So one of the biggest takeaways from this is really that you can have all the strategies in the world, but if you haven't done the underlying work, if you haven't done the deep work to actually heal the trauma that you've been through, the experiences that you've had that have shaped and guided your belief system, then you're not going to be able to apply the strategies. So it's really about, it's not like a this or that. It's not a masculine approach or a feminine approach. It's not a left or right, up or down. It's actually both. It's really about integration. It's truly about alignment. And you can't have alignment if you're operating in one extreme or the other. So if you're only worrying about the strategy and you're obsessing over this, but you haven't done the deep work to actually heal your relationship with money, then you're going to be overcompensating in some of the more masculine traits that have to do with finances. On the other end of the spectrum, if all you're doing is journaling and meditations and exercises and kind of like tapping into yourself and doing some of the deep emotional and spiritual work to get an inventory of where you're at and where you're coming from, and that's all that you're doing, then it's going to be really, really hard for you to actually see traction in your finances. It really takes an integrative approach of bringing these two things together to be able to fully step into your power and manifest true wealth. And that wealth goes far beyond dollars and cents. That manifesting true wealth is something that happens within you, and it's something that you then bring into the world. It's not an external thing that once I get this job and once I make this much money and once I done XYZ, that finally now I'm wealthy. Being wealthy really does start within. So thank you guys all so much for tuning in. I hope that everyone has a great rest of the day and an awesome weekend coming up. And yeah, again, if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out to me. Let me know. My upcoming book, Heal Money, Trauma, and Create Sustainable Wealth, is going to be out in October. I'm super excited about that. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And I also have some free resources, and you guys can hop on a call and talk to me one-on-one. If you guys want to dive into any of this stuff any deeper, definitely let me know. Reach out to me. I am here for you guys as a resource. So best of luck with your money mindset and all of your investing and saving and financial strategy. And I hope that this gave you an opportunity to really start to think about some of the other elements that go into your relationship with money. Bye, everybody.